Japan. There are presently 346 million credit cards in circulation as of 2009. The Japanese credit card market has tremendously slowed. It's a mature market. Many people in Japan may have 2 to 3 credit cards, maybe even 4 on average. There will be, it'll stay somewhere about that figure between 2010 and 2011 at 350 million cards. And the amount of current credit card debt will also stay at about 750 billion throughout 2011. Japan, like China, has a very low delinquency rate at 3.2%, and we can estimate or extrapolate that we're going to have about 11.2 million credit card delinquencies throughout 2011. Korea, a little bit different than Japan, but also many similarities. As of 2009, there were 106 million credit cards in circulation. But Korea has had an explosive growth in the number of credit cards in circulation over the last couple of years. As I've written here, in 1990, very few people, a very small percent of the population actually were using credit cards. And in 2002, 45% of transactions are now done with credit cards. And here we have in 2008, 50% of all payment transactions are done with a credit card. I should mention that in Japan and Korea, many transactions now, just like Sam had pointed out this morning, are done by mobile phone. And those charges are billed to your telephone bill. So I bring that up because that also would be an indication of collection trends. But I only focused on credit cards for this presentation. Estimated credit card debt throughout 2010 and 11 will stay somewhere around 220, 230 billion respectively. And the delinquency rates are about 3.7%, 4%, which translates to about 5 million credit cards throughout 2011. Philippines is a very, very small market for credit cards. There are only 8 million credit cards in circulation as of 2009. And it is expected to grow at about 4% per year. It's still fairly small. The number of credit cards in circulation throughout 2010 and 11 will be about 9 million cards respectively. They have approximately, they will have about $6 billion in current credit card debt throughout 2011, and the 60-day delinquency rate is about 6.7%, and that's about 600,000 credit card delinquencies throughout 2011. Okay? Australia. Australia presently, or at the end of 2009, has about 16 million credit cards. And the market is estimated to grow very little, between 1% and 2% over the next year or so. That means it's going to stay between 16 and 17 million cards respectively. And the current credit card debt will only stay somewhere about $48, $49 billion. Australia in general has a credit card default rate, 60-day credit card default rate of about 4.1%, and that translates to about 700,000 credit card delinquencies. In summary, we have really about, throughout 2010, 2011, and of the 6 countries that I've looked at, about $1.5 trillion in estimated current credit card debt. If we were really going to look at all of the significant countries in Asia Pacific, we probably would end up close to $2 trillion. That's in current credit card debt. And the number of cards for those 6 countries, though, would end up being about 730, 750 million cards. And that translates to perhaps at an average of 5.2, at an average delinquency rate of 5.2%, we're probably going to end up with about 24, 26 million credit card delinquencies. So what does all this mean to us? If we have perhaps, and the interesting part and the difficulty is trying to extrapolate what would be the estimated debt in the estimated credit card debt that would be out there in Asia Pacific over the next year or so. It would probably be close to $60 billion. But $60 billion, that's the current credit card debt. Out of $60 billion, we might have a delinquency of about 5%. We're probably looking maybe about, I don't know, maybe $3 to $5 billion. And out of that, how much can get placed to the collection industry? How many cards is that? There are so many factors that will impact whether the banks or the credit card companies will outsource delinquencies. And so as a credit and collection industry, what do we have to look at? We have to see to ourselves, number one, what are the credit card companies that we're presently doing business with, and can we leverage those relationships to find out how we can tap into the credit card debt that will appear in China, that will be in Korea, maybe in Japan, and see if there is some way that can be outsourced. Because there is a market there. It just depends on whether that market is available to a GCS platform. And that really would be the nugget in all of this. So I do have a couple of graphs because I think it's important to see what the comparison is with the United States. The US, for example, in 2009 had approximately 576 million cards outstanding. Their growth is going to be over the next year or so just marginal, 580 maybe in 2010 and 610 million in 2011. And you can compare that with India, for example, which is in yellow. That will remain from 2010 and 11 just at about 23 million cards. China, conversely, as I had mentioned, they're going to have significant growth over the next year or so, and they have about 199, 200 million cards outstanding now, and in 2010 and 2011, it will increase significantly from 220 million and then 245 million. But as a comparison to the US obviously dwarfs the market with these 6 countries and probably in Asia as a whole. And here I have, again, the US in 2010 presently has about $841 billion in current credit card debt, and comparing that, and Japan is a close second with $750 billion or so in 2010. The other countries that I looked at are quite small. China only has, at this point, $119 billion of total credit card debt outstanding. So that's an eighth of what the US market is at this point. And, but the interesting thing on this graph is to see that India has the highest delinquency rate among all the 6 countries that I've looked at approximately 11%. And again, China has a delinquency rate of averaging between 2 and 2.5%. And here again, I have estimated the number of delinquencies per country. And in China, for example, in 2010, we estimated about 4.5 million credit card delinquencies. You can see a little 0.6 there, that's the 600,000 in the Philippines over 2010, 2011. But again, I put the US in this chart because I wanted you to get some perspective of how Asia Pacific is faring towards these countries, these 6 countries compared towards the US. And that is it. I greatly appreciate your attention. Again, it's wonderful to be here, and looking forward to talking to you and sharing and cooperating with all of you. Thank you so much.